even though we're a little bit late here to my technical mishaps. But welcome, everybody. Tom Burton here with my co-host Carson Heddy and Brandon Lee, and our awesome guest today, Larry Levine. Larry, welcome.
Hey, what's going on? Look forward to this.
I just found out we're neighbors practically down in, I'm in Santa Barbara, Larry's in Thousand Oaks, and we're practically neighbors.
Yep, just an hour's drive away.
Just an hour's drive. So, hey, Larry, we're going to talk and get a little bit of your story, dig into your background, your book, everything like that. I know everybody's going to have a lot of questions, so if you're online, welcome. Please tell us where you're from. Get your questions lined up for Larry. But before we do that, of course, a couple things. Brandon, who are we sponsored by today?
I don't know. Choose somebody. We're sponsored by Carson today. Hey, I
like how you guys roll.
That's it.
Yes. Our sponsors aren't going to like that, Brandon. Very
That's much. True. Well, I think it's Modern Seller HQ community time for everybody. So, and the new and improved, lots of new stuff, lots of new coaches in there, totally free community. Maybe we could even strong arm Larry to come in and be a coach in there at some point.
You never know.
Boy, I have a feeling we're not going to get a lot of sponsors lined up for that sort of endorsement. All right. So,
I warned you guys, bringing me on this thing, man. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all already. So, all right.
It's a free for all.
Let's see if we can elevate it then with our dad joke challenge. And I know Carson's been preparing now for a couple of days for this. Who wants to go first today? And Larry, you and I in the audience get to be the judge here. So Carson, you want to kick it off?
I'm ready. I'll be back. I'm like a fanboy today. You know, I've got my autographed copy here of Selling from the Heart. So it's a dream come true for me. But actually, in all seriousness, if I land one thing on this whole show today, it's that Larry and I have known each other for like 5 years. We've never met in person, but he's a good friend. And I think it speaks to the relationships that you can create with social. I'm just glad to be back. Last week, I was with, the LinkedIn Lounge. I made a cameo appearance. I missed my Starbucks barista. I was sucking down skinny mochas like they were going out of style. So I've been, coming off that high, being back home this week. But I'm here with two for the price of one. Dad jokes. I did ask ChatGPT per usual, but I came up with my own as well that I want to share with the audience today. So here we go. And actually, you know what? I'll let you guess which one's which. So number one, what did one hat say to the other hat? You stay here. I'll go on ahead. Oh. And the other joke is, why did the baker become a salesman? So he could make more dough.
Oh boy.
On to you, Brandon.
Dude, I am trying not to laugh right now. But
Don't hold back. Don't hold back, Larry. We don't hold back on this show.
Oh man.
So I'm going to go on a limb and say that the dough one came from ChatGPT.
Wrong. That was me.
Brother. All right.
Okay.
So that's the Carson one. All right, Brandon.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to step up to two as well, and I'm going to run a theme here. So, and these are both kind of more statements and jokes, but one is I never understood why they call false teeth dentures when they could have called it substitutes.
Oh, jeez. But
and simultaneously, and along with that is did you know that the toothbrush was invented in Idaho? Because if it was invented in any other state, it would have been properly been called teeth brush.
Oh boy!
So hey, why are you capping on Idaho?
Well, I found that joke when I lived in Idaho, so it was more of a self-deprecating. Yeah. So
all right, everybody, time to vote.
I could say Georgia, I guess, right?
And while we're tallying up the votes, definitely good to see Bill and Captain Kirk on the bridge. Bill McCormick, previous guest on this show, by the way. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Matt Butch, yeah. So is Butch going to vote for Brandon or Carson today? Oh, we don't.
I like Jeff's response. I'm triggered by those. As well you should be.
Oh,
man.
Keep your day jobs, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's true. So everybody on the podcast, we're watching all these comments come in that basically say how lame we are and how bad our jokes are.
But I noticed one comment is that Larry puts butts in seats because the chat is alive today. So
that's true.
We'll see where this goes.
I told you guys this went out to all of my 5 followers, and they just they are. It's great. I love seeing them all. I told you, that's it.
I love it.
But they're all leaving going, I didn't come on to listen to dumb dad jokes.
Yeah, we better get to the meat.
Yeah, we better get to the meat here. So looks like Carson won overwhelmingly. Even the Carson GPT was better than the Chat GPT. So congratulations, Carson. Your work paid off. Hard work paid off.
I feel a lot of shame for being the dad joke guy. I haven't won in weeks.
No, you won last week, I think, when Carson wasn't here. Oh no, he was here. You still won. That's
true.
All right, Larry.
Let's get to the meat. Let's get to the valuable guy.
Yeah. Larry, tell us your story.
How far back you want to go? You tell me.
Oh, a couple years, whatever.
No. Hey, first of all, it's an honor to be here. I love watching you guys in action. I got some dad jokes to repurpose, so I'll just forget all of those. But no, it's been an interesting ride, and I'll take everyone back just to give them the Reader's Digest version of this. I'm a sales geek at heart. I love everything about sales. It's the only thing I've done since I graduated college back in the 80s. But nevertheless, I grew up in the office technology world. I sold copiers my whole entire life in one of the most commoditized markets, dog eat dog. I did this in the LA marketplace, and I only expected to hang out in it for a year and flip it to another career, because who graduates college, right? I double majored, so I had a degree in health science and I had a degree in marketing, and I wind up selling copiers, and I go, okay, well, I'll just last a year. I'll flip it into something else. But I remember it's just how I was raised. And I was just raised in an environment where you found a job and you stuck to it and you didn't job hop. And I write about job hoppers and selling from the heart. And I said, you know what? I chose this career. I chose to be in sales, and I chose to be in office technology sales. I'm just going to make the best of it. And I just doubled down on holding myself accountable. And I wrote a really great career in the copier channel for almost 30 years. Wow. And along the way, one thing I always did, and I want everyone to key in on this, is I was constantly reinventing myself. I was just on a constant quest to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I just would never settle. I would just never settle. I saw too many salespeople settle. And once you start settling, you become complacent. And complacent is just a killer in sales. And it just causes us to do things we wouldn't do otherwise. And it was just really, I wrote a great career. I had every position in sales. I was a partner in a copier dealership. I created an exit for myself. I went to go work for a Fortune 500 company in the office technology space. And I was on their enterprise major account team. And here's what's interesting, because I think it ties into probably our conversation today, is you're never too old to learn something new. You're never too old. And I remember at 40 years, I'm going to take everyone back, but this parlays into the last part of my career, is at 40 years old, I hired my first business coach. And I did it just because I was stuck. I felt I was stuck. I was the number one person on my sales team. I was having a great year, but I just felt internally I was stuck. So I hired a business coach that if it wasn't for this person, I probably wouldn't be here today, because they taught me a lot of things about doing the inner work and a lot of soul searching and things like that. But the biggest thing this person taught me was how to replicate myself in an online world. Now, 18 years ago, just think back, 18 years ago, LinkedIn isn't what it is today. A lot of these social channels aren't where they're at today. But he said, Larry, he goes, the way you carry yourself face to face, you just replicate that online and watch what starts to happen. Just mirror it, stay congruent, and watch what happens. So I share that with everyone, because fast forward to the latter part of my career, I create an exit and I go to work for a Fortune 500 company in the office technology space. And I'm in a net new situation. No current accounts, no anything other than I'm 48 and a half years old. I walk into a brand new position. I've been given an exorbitant quota with no customers. And they said, welcome to insert name of company. There's your desk. There's your phone. Here's your laptop. Do 3 days of onboarding. And by the way, this is a net new position.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah.
And I just shared with them my business plan on how I would grow business. And it was all based on what I learned from my business coach. It was the power of building a highly engaged network and doing something that I hold myself accountable to this day, relationally prospect through my networks. And in the span of 1 year, I went from number 18 to number 2. I built out well past $1.5 million in net new business. I don't say it to brag. It's just being real with it. And then I was exited out at 50 years old, and I left almost a $2 million pipeline for somebody else to go to President's Club on. But that's the condensed version. I grew up in the Office Technology Channel. I never expected in a million years at 58 I'd be doing what I'm doing, but life happens and you got to pick yourself up, because I'm a big believer in this. We all go through it. We all go through peaks and valleys, and we all go through highs and lows, and it's how we transform ourselves along the way. And I told Carson before we all started this, I've learned more in my 50s than I did in my 20s, 30s, and 40s combined.
Well, and I think your point, and there's a really good comment here I'm going to pop up, and it's from a LinkedIn user, so I can't credit it, but it says, Quest is a great word to use when thinking about learning and growth. It evokes the journey elements of a career. Quests involve slaying the dragon, climbing the mountain, rescuing the future potential, all with a hero's heart. I think that's a really good summary, Larry, of what you were saying. And I think, and I love your take on this, I think now more than ever, right, with the dynamics of the market changing and all of that, that quest and that learning, I don't know how you can survive without that mentality.
No, and I think this goes back, and I heard this quote. Actually, it was the CEO of where Carson works.
That little company? It's kind of
it's that small little company that starts with an M and ends with a T. Yeah, I remember, and Carson, you're gonna have to help me out on this. I'm gonna butcher his name, but I go ahead and share it.
Satya Nadella.
Yes, thank you very much. Here's what was interesting. I think this goes back a couple years ago. He was in an interview with one of Microsoft's strategic partners, and I think it was at Workday, if I'm not mistaken. And they brought all these leaders on of large corporations. And I remember him saying this is every morning we must wake up with a learn it all mindset, as opposed to a know-it-all mindset. Carson, you're shaking your head because you've probably heard it. And that's what we need to do. But unfortunately, we flip it around. And a lot of us wake up with that know-it-all mindset and figured we've been there, done that. And it actually just stunts our growth, and it stunts our ability to become the best versions of ourselves.
I think it's powerful that you say that too, Larry, because he really lives and breathes that and embodies that. And that's authentic and genuine of him. And if you watch the trajectory over the last 9 years, some of the changes in how we show up and how we collaborate with other organizations, it's paid off, continues to do so.
Yeah, you just said something. I want to key in on this, and you just said how you show up. And I believe this is what we can control. And we're 100% responsible for how we show up. It's not insert your company wherever you all work. It's not your manager's responsibility. It's not your sales leader's responsibility. It's your responsibility for how you show up. It's just now as sales professionals, sales leaders, key executives, we have the ability to show up in many different formats. Mm-hmm. And it's just not face to face. And we have to be sensitive to how we show up in different platforms and different environments, because we can control that.
Yeah. Tom, I think you articulated this in our pre-show, kind of while we were in the green room getting prepped, right, and getting makeup. I need a little more, but you know what's interesting, because I know our audience, a lot of it is the account executive, kind of some of us are grizzled sales folks that amidst this rise of AI and automation, there's a lot of inauthentic connection attempts. And, we talk about the pitch slaps on this show. We talk about all of the, the dangers of fully embracing blindly AI. You've got to find ways to leverage it to to create and nurture a genuine relationship and maybe broker a face-to-face dialogue that you wouldn't have been able to get otherwise. I'd love to hear, and first, Tom, please articulate any of the stuff that I missed out as we kind of tee this up. But I think that is all the more reason for why Larry's message continues to become more and more profound, because authentic selling is what's got to be at the heart of our attempts to connect here.
Yeah, and I think definitely want Larry to weigh in on this. I think though, as technology becomes more intelligent and we kind of go to an extreme with the use of technology, we have to balance that out with an extreme of the relationship. And to me, the selling from the heart has to balance out that use of an application of technology. And Larry, love your take on that, especially, now when we see all of this new AI technology literally flooding the airwaves by the minute.
So I'm going to walk a fine line on this, but I'm going to say all this with sincerity though, is I just happen to grow up in a time pre-internet. And I had to grow up. There was no internet. If I wanted to learn something, I had to read a book. I had to ask questions. I had to be curious, or I had to go to the library. That was it.
Yeah.
And I think Carson Carson may be an iffy on that, but I know Tom and Brandon can lean in there with me on this. It just, when you grow up in a sales environment that I didn't have technology. So I had to learn the people skills and I had to learn the relationship building skills. And I remember I've had numerous conversations with Brandon. This goes back years ago. I don't think the core foundation of sales has ever changed. The tools have changed. Mm-hmm. And here's where I'm going with this. And I remember it was the first or second book I read was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Now that book was written in 1937. And if Dale was on this podcast right now, he'd be smiling and he'd be head bobbing like a bobblehead. It'd just be going up and down. And I'm a big believer that book's still alive and well today. And it's very applicable when it comes to selling. It's about building relationships and changing the way people think. If we flip a modern edge on this, the tools have just changed. The core foundation hasn't. So I think what's missing is the people skills and the relationship building skills. Now, just because of my age, I learned that a long time ago. I learned the importance of people skills and how to interact and how to be curious and how to engage in conversation and how to be genuine. And then I had to learn technology, and I mirrored both of these together. Well, if we look at today, we're learning, and this is just my opinion, and I firmly believe this until somebody can prove me wrong on this, is we're learning technology first, and we're learning how to communicate with technology, but we're not learning the people skills and the relationship building skills, and we're hiding behind technology. And when we hide behind technology, we stunt our conversational growth. And I'm in and out of all kinds of different industries. And I'm seeing this with young salespeople just entering the market, and I'm seeing it with grizzly veterans. We become conversationally incompetent. And I'll repeat that. We become conversationally incompetent because we're hiding behind technology. We're leveraging technology. We're allowing technology to think for us. I'm all for it, right? Heck, technology is bridging all of us together right now. Mm-hmm. But we got to get back to the people skills part of this and the relationship building skills part of this and how to engage in a conversation. And if we can get back to coaching and guiding salespeople to do that and then blend in technology with this, watch what starts to happen. And it's why I'm a big believer. Soft skills yield hard dollars. They always will be until the test of time. But when we hide behind technology, you all get what you get right now. And everyone's looking for the fast track to quote as fast as they can with minimal amount of work. It takes work, but without people skill building, without relationship building, y'all get what you get.
Yeah. Larry, that's so good. And I can't believe I got to follow that with Larry, but here I am, I guess. So, I think we're sitting in this time or this era where you have the younger generation grew up with technology first, and they've missed out on a lot of the soft skills. But then you have our older generation, us, that we learned the soft skills, but now a lot of us are struggling with how to apply that in technology. And so we've got this big gap right now where whoever you talk to, they're either, I know how to use this LinkedIn thing, but when they open their mouths, they go blah, because they hide behind their title, or they hide behind their company brand or expertise, and they only talk product, service, here's what we do. And then you have the other generation that they get the soft skills, but then they look at the screen and they go, oh, what do I say? And one of the things that I picked up from you years ago is we've got to learn how to stop hiding behind our title just because we have this screen between us, and allow ourselves to be a human being, even though it's this LinkedIn thing in front of us. There's this gap of call it imposter syndrome or insecurity or just fear, that we look at someone's post and we go to comment on it and people freeze. And they're not really sure how to show up authentically. There's this like, oh, I'm supposed to, and they think from their title instead of just thinking, hey, this is, one of the tips I tell everybody, and it sounds really, really silly, but read a post, you get to see their picture right there, or read a comment and you see their picture, and then close your eyes and think through the comment and just imagine them standing in front of you. And what would you say conversationally?
Well, this is so good. And here's what I want. Let's all think about this together for a moment. You have to be willing to do this. If you can't do this, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle in life with this. Is you have to remove the mental boundary and the barrier that you have between what you see on this screen and what other people are saying. You got to remove this. And that's what I did a long time ago. You get what you get, right? And I recognize a lot of the names that are in chat, and they know me. And the reason why I'm saying this is you get what you get with me. I don't hide behind the screen. I don't hide behind my title. Heck, I'm the same person I was 12 years ago selling copiers and carrying myself online. It's just, I educate, I engage, and I excite people into a conversation, because without a conversation, nothing happens. Nothing happens. It's just that I think, again, this is my opinion, my beliefs is, and it's just a phrase I use, there's way too many legends in their own lunchboxes online. There's all too many people that are, I call them social Pied Pipers. Right? They're tooting their horns really loud, and you get a lot of just people following them. And that's okay. We can use this platform, any social platform, however we see fit. But I've always been very strategic with it. I've always been very professional with it. And just an artful blend of professionalism and personalism on this, if that's even a word. But if it's not, I just made it up. But I removed the boundary. And that's why I connected to Brandon so well. I'm just getting to know you, Tom. And that's why I connected to Carson so well, is mentally I removed the barrier, and the barrier's the screen. And I know I can't build a relationship with any of you if I hide behind a screen or if I hide behind a keyboard, because I'm going to get called out on the carpet on it in 2 seconds. But I can guarantee you this, a vast majority of the people online, that's not how they are in real life. And I'm just calling it what it is.
Yeah. And I would say the getting called out on it, a lot of times it's not literally getting called out on it. What happens is people just ignore us because they can tell we're not authentic. And then people throw their hands up and they go, oh, the social thing, this LinkedIn thing doesn't work. No, you didn't show up authentically, and other people can sniff that out and they just don't engage.
Well, it's so true. And I'm a big Darren Hardy fan, and, I love his stuff, and I love getting his emails in my inbox every day. And one of the things he said, this goes back a couple years ago, but it plays to what you were just saying, Brandon. He just goes, and again, this is Darren Hardy, I'm paraphrasing it, but it was his message, but I concur with his message is, he goes, I believe it's easier to be inauthentic today than it is to be authentic. Think about that for a second.
Let's say that one more time, Larry.
But this is Darren Hardy. He went on to say, He believes it's easier for society. I'll throw in society. It's easier for society to be inauthentic than it is to be authentic.
Because you have to work at it more.
Because to me, and this is the sad part about this, we're all authentic human beings. It's how we choose to carry ourselves. But it's easier to go with the grain than against the grain. But in order to be authentic, you have to look inward. And there's not very many people that want to take that journey inward to uncover who they really are. And that's why I subtitled my book, How Your Authentic Self Sells You. It's hard to be authentic if you don't know who you are.
It's a good quotable episode. I think we need some merch from the Larry Levine store, and we need a shirt that says soft skills yield hard dollars. I'd be the first one to buy that. You know what this resonates with me, Larry, is a good friend of mine, Matt Barra, who also lives here in St. Louis.
Sure.
Works City. I know Larry knows him. He always likes to say sales isn't B2B, B2C. It's P2P. It's person to person. I think that's where we have to remember. You know, Brandon, you said something, and I know you made a post earlier this week just about being more intentional about commenting and, putting our authentic self into that. Don't let that freeze come into play. You're talking to a person. Somebody made the analogy for me once that LinkedIn's like a coffee shop. Everybody that you want to talk to for the most part is hanging out there, or the people that know them are hanging out there. And so just pretend that somebody's pontificating at the coffee shop about something that they care about. So show up with some perspective, and it gives you a little bit of window and insight into what matters to the people that you want to matter to. And that's what the tech does. The tech enables you to arm yourself with knowledge that you wouldn't have had otherwise. The tech enables you to connect with folks that you would not be able to connect with otherwise. Yep. But when you get in the room, that's when it's all about the fundamentals. I spent last week face-to-face with customer executives, and that's what I live for. Some of these relationships wouldn't have happened without the tech. But from where we go from here is all about the fundamentals. The tech isn't going to close the deal. Social can't close the deal. I always like to say nobody's sending POs to my LinkedIn inbox. But if you use the tech in a way that creates and nurtures relationships, then it's being put to good use. My biggest deal, I've talked about it a few times on this show, the exec I met on LinkedIn, he didn't work there anymore, but he's now a mentor and he's a friend. And I have relationships like this with people that I've met online, and you can do so much for your personal brand and these creation and investments and nurturing of relationships over time. That's what selling from the heart has been for me.
Yeah, here's what's interesting, and there's a word that's just near and dear to me with all of this, and it's intentionality. And I'm very intentional from the minute I wake up, from the moment my feet hit the ground in the morning. I'm intentional, and I show up with intentionality, and I want to invite people into my network, and I want to engage with people. And I say this because I just don't see enough of this happening. It's a lot of social graffiti being sprayed out there, and it's all about me, right? And everyone's just clamoring for attention. But you can get attention so much, but right, you can draw people to you, but if you don't have anything to say or there's no substance behind it, you're going to get called out. And it's why I write about not being an empty suit. And that's the last chapter of my book. Is I'm not here to disrespect anybody at all. I'm just here to get people to think. And we got to stop paying attention to everybody else and start paying more attention to how we carry ourselves and how we engage, and how we create an environment that invites people in, and they say, I want to know more. I want to know more. And I want to keep coming back for more. And there's just not enough of that.
Larry, I would imagine you have a lot of people that would love to follow in your footsteps, right? You wrote yourself a phenomenal career, and yet it's continuing to evolve in ways that maybe you didn't envision. We're talking to a lot of modern sellers, and I think it's interesting. I do a lot of training on social selling, and sometimes people ask me to showcase some of the things that I built and created around social selling. And I always make sure to preface it by saying, look, I've been working on this stuff for a decade, and sales fundamentals are still so key to making this work and making it successful. So if you were, you're talking to modern sellers right now, how do you tell somebody to get started when they're thinking about how they can leverage social to better engage their customers, but also how they can use social to build a brand that they can be proud of?
Here's the first two words that come to mind. and it's called social positioning. And here's where I'm going with this. And this can be done even if you're 21 years old and you're just starting out, or you're 65 years old and you go, you know what? I've never really thought of doing this. So that's just for the sake of our time together. Let's just put aside social selling for a moment. Can we just all four of us agree? Let's just put social selling aside. Let's call this social positioning. You got and why this is so important is trust and credibility is anemically low right now in sales. Perception of salespeople is very low. And I'm a big believer that perception's in the eye of the beholder. So if y'all can buy in with how you carry yourself, and I'm a big believer, I've shared it before, we're responsible for how we carry ourselves. Well, let's position ourselves as someone who is full of trustworthiness, who's credible, who's there to help, that can align to the values and initiatives and goals of their ideal clients. Position yourself that way. And once you position yourself that way, then start educating. Then start educating people. And you might be 21 years old and you're going, well, heck, Larry, how do I educate people? Well, in order to educate people, one must become educated. So therefore, if you're early on, start listening to podcasts, reading books, right? And if you really want to engage people, here's what I'm going to ask you all to think about. Start reading leadership books, start reading mindset books, start reading spirituality books, in addition to all the other books that you read. Position yourself really well. First impressions matter. I remember somebody came in our Selling from the Heart Insiders group just last week and said something in the very beginning that I think applies to this. This person went on to say this: first impressions are lasting impressions. What's your first impression? And it's not that I'm 21 years old, I'm wet behind the ears, and I have nothing to say. Y'all have something to say. It's how you choose to carry yourself. So I would say once you do that, build a great house, build an amazing foundation, build a great house. And the way you invite people in is you got to start educating them. You have to give them a reason to want to know more. And that's why my 3 E's are so mission critical, I believe, for everyone in sales. It's how well you educate, it's how well you engage, and it's how well you excite people into a conversation. If you educate and engage, but you don't excite, no one's going to come back for more. If you educate, engage, and excite, and they want to come back for more, and you haven't positioned yourself really well, you've missed a golden opportunity to make a great first impression. I believe those are the mission critical first 2 steps.
Well, and I would think, right, you're talking about first impression. That first impression that somebody has of you, you get positioned right away in their mind.
Yep.
Whether it's a good positioning or not, right? So it could be a position like, this guy's an idiot, or this guy's slimy, or I don't trust him, or wait a minute, this guy is somebody who I want to build a relationship with, and then everything builds on. So that positioning happens in a second.
Oh, no, I totally agree. That's the thing about this. Everyone's vetting everybody out.
Right.
Let's just face it. Everybody is vetting everybody out.
Right.
So let's just think about this together. I'm 21 years old. I'm 31 years old. I'm 41 years old. It doesn't matter. Insert age. Do you think the reason why some of your emails don't get returned and voicemails don't get returned and some of your outreach doesn't get returned is, set aside your messaging for a moment. Do you ever think that if you have caught their interest, they're vetting you out and they just simply put your name in a Google search and see what comes up? Or do you think, right? And this is what I caught on to this 18 years ago, is I had to change the perception of how I was viewed in the office technology space. And I go, what better way to do this than leverage? I wish LinkedIn was around in the 80s.
You and me both.
Oh my Lord, this would have been something, this would have been huge, but it wasn't. But I knew that if I was getting vetted out, which was happening, the fastest way for a C-level executive, a key decision maker, or Brandon or Carson and Tom to vet me out is they're just going to simply let their fingers do the walking in Google. And their fingers are going to do the walking, and it's going to go right to my LinkedIn profile. And this is where I can change perception. But I think what happens is where we miss the mark on this. Everyone's trying to figure out what the heck is social selling. And it's become noise. Let's break it down to the simplest. Let's create some foundations around this. Let's change mindset. Let's not figure out what social selling is. Let's figure out how to position ourselves. Let's figure out how to educate and engage. Let's figure out how to build networks, and then figure out how to relationally prospect through these networks. The only reason why I bring this up is, as a 40-year-old, I just learned this the hard way. No one ever taught me this. 18 years ago, there wasn't very many LinkedIn sales trainers. Now there are a freaking dime a dozen.
But I also think this goes back to, Brandon, your point about, people freezing up when they're going to do it. It's because they don't know what their positioning is. They don't know how they're positioned.
Yep.
But then you get to the keyboard and you're like, well, what am I supposed to say? And because there's nothing to build that on. There's nothing to build that comment or that foundation on.
Yep.
Yeah. And getting somewhere where you can practice. Like, we tell people in the Modern Seller HQ community, use this as a sandbox. Practice. Everybody's in here for the same thing. We want to get better at this stuff. So practice. I don't know, Dave, I see Dave Tegmeyer on here, and he posts in there sometimes ago, can everybody give me some feedback on this before I post it in LinkedIn? Use things that are comfortable to start getting practice, because like anything else, the more we do it, the more confident we get in it.
Yeah. And you bring up the great words, the P word, right? Practice. It's a big foundation of my belief in this, is you got to practice this. You can't just all of a sudden build a great profile, do a couple things, right? Find a couple tips, learn a couple tricks, and then all of a sudden there is no success. You just got to practice. You got to prepare. You got to plan. You got to be consistent. You got to hold yourself accountable. You got to do all these things. Consistency is the name of the game today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, unfortunately, way too many people are consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, we talked last week. I think it was last week, Tom and Carson. I think you were off by then, but starting, because everyone wants to start with social. Go, I don't know what to publish. Well, first of all, commenting is probably a better tactic to start with. But if you want to publish, think about, what are you thinking, what are you observing, and what are you feeling? And just start sharing things like that you're dealing with every day.
Yep.
And that's where people can then connect with you, and forget all the work stuff for now. Just, hey, I'm observing this in work, or I'm feeling this in my job, or whatever. Just start there and watch how real human conversation is attractive.
So here's I'm a big believer, listening is the new prospecting. And so, again, whether you're early on in your career, you're at the midpoint, you're on the latter part of your career, you all have current customers and you all have targeted account lists. All you got to do is start listening. Just start paying attention to your customers and start paying attention to the people you're trying to sell to. It's what Carson's done so amazingly well, is if you pay attention to them, they will pay attention to you.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be sincere about it. We can learn. It's all I did in the Office Technology channel in the latter part of my career. I followed all my customers, and I followed everybody that I wanted to do business with. And I learned as much as I possibly could from them based on what they were posting. And all I did was I inserted my voice into their content. This is before I ever posted any piece of content.
Yep.
Right? I was in my 40s doing this. But I knew that I'm a big believer. There's two reasons why people post on social. They want to be seen and they want to be heard. So it's up to us as a sales community to see and hear our customers and our future customers. And what better way to do this is engage in the things that are important to them. I'm telling you this, if things weren't important to your customers or your future customers, they wouldn't have posted it on social.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that commenting in LinkedIn is the digital version of active listening.
Yep.
And getting from here, the value of active listening is so important. Larry, I think you just shattered the record for mic drops and golden nuggets on any episode ever. And we still have like 5 minutes left.
No, dude, we'll go as long as you want. By the way, you told me this was a 3-hour podcast. So I blocked 3 hours.
It's a telethon, Larry. We're going to be going for 24 hours or so.
No, but I think and I love the chitter chatter I'm seeing in here, and it's greatly appreciated. There is no secret. Everyone's looking for secret sauce with social. They really are. And I'm not here to disrespect anybody, none whatsoever. But if you want to make effective use of social, you got to look at yourself in the mirror. But I've always said this, the only person, right? Mirror never lies. Mirror never lies. Only the person looking into the mirror lies. So if you want to have great success on social, show up with authenticity, which means you got to be congruent. Does the walk match the talk? Simple as that. Engage with people. Have conversations with people. Be intentional with your conversations. Give them a reason to come for more.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just not giving people enough reason to come back for more. We're just not doing it. And I can't remember who it was in chat, because I've been glancing in chat. Might have been Captain. I think it was Captain, is what he said, something like, what happens if we removed all the emojis? It would force people to engage in conversation. However, here's how y'all can flip this around. And let's just think about it. Whether somebody gives you a heart, a clap, a laugh, a like, right? At least they're acknowledging it. It's up to you what you do with it. So if you see somebody continually throwing emojis at you, engage back, right? Reach out to them, thank them. I'll leave y'all with something to think about. But one of my, he's very close to me, this guy by the name of Don Bard. He wrote the book, The Perfect Plan. And what was interesting is he did deep research. He's a behavioral economist by trade. But what was interesting is he researched what made top sellers so good. What's the elite of the elites? And the number one trait behind all of this is they led their life in every conversation with gratitude. What would happen in a social world if you led your life with gratitude and you thanked everyone for conversations and you were grateful, you appreciated that they stopped by, even if it was for a drive-by, right? Pretty soon, nice matters. I remember Mark Cuban on Shark Tank said, nice matters in business. Being human matters. Just because I'm behind the screen doesn't mean I'm not human.
Yeah, and I want to connect as we kind of wrap up here, and I want to connect a couple of dots, because I think there's one thing. If there's one thing here today that, to me, I think is really relevant, Carson and Brandon, to everything we've been doing with social selling for newbies since the beginning, 43 episodes now. And I'm going to start here with what Captain Kirk says. He says positioning is a main goal of marketing and branding, right? So we've heard that for years. You're positioning to everything. But when you get into social, we talk about personal brand all the time. But we don't think about the positioning, to your point, Larry, of our personal brand. We don't think about that. We may think about it by our company. We don't think about it from a personal perspective. And when you put that positioning there, and I think you called it the 3 E's, right? Excite, educate, and what was the third?
Engage.
Engage, right? You start to establish that personal brand and that personal positioning, that social positioning, that starts to rise you above the noise and makes you more extraordinary than ordinary. And we, if you look at that as a common denominator, and I'm interested, Carson, Brandon, your take, but if you look at everything we've been talking to about for 43 episodes, and you kind of put that at the center of the universe, everything starts to align to around that, to really make you, because everything we've talked about, pitch slapping, all the things, you don't do and do and whatever, all comes back to that, in my opinion, that social positioning and how you show up in that social positioning.
And too often that conversation bypasses everything that Larry shared today about coming from the heart and being human. And too many of the LinkedIn experts out there are looking at your profile from do you have the pretty graphic? Do you have the right headshot? Do you have the right hashtags? All of that type of stuff. And even in the about section, are you saying who you serve and how you do? And people are looking for somebody to connect with. And we've said this a lot of times on the show, nothing has changed. It's just a little different, but people do business with those who they like, they know, they trust. And is the way that you're showing up in this social world helping people know, like, and trust you, or are you hiding behind some sort of a title or a facade of who you think you're supposed to be?
Hey, if you'll allow me, I just want to play off of something that Brandon just said, because I think it's really important. I gotta expand on this know, like, and trust thing. This is what I want us all to think about, because Brandon used it, Carson's used it, Tom's used it, I've used it, everyone in the chat's used it, and it's going to be used until we're off the face of this earth. People buy from people, and people buy from people they know, like, and trust. Those are two often used phrases. But how do you become that person that they know, they like, and they trust in a world that doesn't trust salespeople? They're skeptical about salespeople. They think they're full of bull crap, and the perception of salespeople is really low. It's how you carry yourself. It's how you engage. And this is what cracks me up, is we just don't give enough thought of how we position ourselves. We really don't. So here, I just got to share this in the time we have left, is here's what I want everyone to think about is, so here it is, May 31st. Let's just say, what's Monday's date? I can't even think that far in advance. So I'm going to give everyone some homework. So what is that? I don't even know what the heck. June 5.
It'll be the 5th. Yeah.
So June 5th. So thank you. So on June 5th, everyone now has become the CEO of their own company. Y'all are going out on your own, and y'all are going to become solo entrepreneurs, which I believe in. If you're in sales, Carson's going to agree with me on this. You're a solo entrepreneur. Yeah. Is if you're the CEO of your own company, I can guarantee you this. Thanks, Mark Clausen. Is it in June 5th? Is you are gonna pay attention to how you position you and your company. You're not going to even give it an afterthought. You're going to make sure that your values are up there. You're going to make sure you position yourself in a way that when somebody lands on your website, your profile, it tells the story. So if you can agree upon that as a CEO of your own company, as salespeople right now, why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you making sure you change the perception of how you're viewed? That when you got one shot to make a great first impression. Doesn't mean game's over. It just means you're salmon swimming upstream if you don't do it.
You got one shot to make.
You got one shot to do this. To change the whole narrative.
Can I get 5 seconds real quick? What Larry just said at the beginning of that is that salespeople aren't doing this online. So as sales professionals and leaders with your team, when you start showing up the way Larry's just coached us all for the next 48 minutes, you stand out from the sea of sameness, because authenticity is attractive.
Well stated. Well stated.
Talk about mic drop moments, Brandon.
So despite this has been an extraordinary episode, and Larry, thank you. I mean, amazing stuff. I'm going to go back and listen to this a couple times, but we are missing something today in our show. Carson, what might that be?
I don't know. A lot of times I seem to sum up, and maybe I brought a movie quote or two, but I'm not sure. But you know what? When I always try to sum up, I always go back to the title, Social Selling from the Heart. It's kind of a perfect blend because, as Brandon just articulated, selling from the heart is really all about being genuine, being authentic. The two words that Larry dropped today that really stood out to me are intentionality and positioning. And I think those are the things that we as sellers can really think about. Think about your intentionality. The power of social selling, or just selling, is relationships. Relationships are what beget deals and job opportunities. And we've got to earn the right to the relationship. So practical advice for today and going forward, when it comes to positioning, just think about all the ways that you can engage your potential target audience today, and be open and willing to pivot as time goes by. You look at a successful career like Larry's. I mean, the guy couldn't have possibly fathomed where things were going to go, but he's constantly making tweaks and changes to best engage his target audience. And that's what we all have to do. Follow your target audience, ring their bell so you see their notifications, comment meaningfully and consistently. Find ways like blogs and posts that can start conversations, look provocative, Do podcasts. My gosh, I do 3 podcasts now. If you'd have told me I'd be doing that 5 years ago, I would have thought you were crazy. I'm an introvert. This was not my cup of tea, but now I love it and I thrive on it. Engage with different mediums like video. Your target audience, this was said before, is at the center of your universe. Guess what? The heart is at our center. Selling from the heart is being genuine, authentic, and proactively showing up, seeking to serve. Now, I could have gone for some really low-hanging fruit, and I could have made a reference to Tom's fabled book and the Yellow Brick Road. And obviously there was a tin man who had a quest for a heart that really teaches us about the importance of compassion and empathy. But I'm not going there today. Because when I think about the heart and the best quote from a film about the heart, I always think about the legend, Clint Eastwood. And he said, the heart, Ramon, don't forget the heart. Aim for the heart. And that's what we as all sellers need to endeavor to do every day. Thank you.
Oh no, this is so. Can I just throw some? I can't keep my mouth shut. Sorry, I know it's your.
We don't want you to,
huh? But no,
we don't want you to.
No, so here's what's interesting is I think of these words as I'm listening to what Carson just said. Here's what I want us to all think about together as y'all bring this to a close is, are you being real? Are you being relatable? Are you being relevant? Those 3 R's I want us to think about. Are you being real? Are you being relatable? Are you being relevant? How fast are you connecting and relating to your network? And I will tell you this, and I think it was Gary. I think I heard Gary Vaynerchuk say this, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm going to give him credit. He probably said it, but so did a bunch of everybody else said it. I believe we all live in a commoditized world. If you're in sales, you're in a commoditized world. That's just face it. Somebody's always coming out with a bigger, better, faster widget than you. Those that connect to the heart the fastest will win. Those that connect to the heart the fastest will win. You got to be willing to go there. But it's the stories in our head. It's the stories in our head that become the stories of our life. And we tell ourselves all the excuses why we can't go there. But y'all can do this in your personal life. I know you can. Everybody in chat, everyone who's going to rewatch this, everyone who's listening, I do know this. You can bring heart, sincerity, deep authenticity, and genuineness to your personal relationships. I know you can. So here's the question. Why can't y'all bring this to your professional relationships?
That's a great way to end off. I think Brandon and Carson, next week, we need to find a guest with a little more passion, a little bit, somebody who's really more into what they do. We'll keep working on it. But Larry, really, really thank you. Awesome stuff today. Great movie analogy, Carson. You killed it there. So, Larry, we're going to have you on again.
All you got to do is ask.
Talk about here. And,
I'm just sending Carson the invoice, by the way, but
yeah,
that's fine.
I'm giving you, Tom and Brandon grace on this, and I'm just flipping the invoice to Carson. No, Carson's a high roller. He'll cough it up.
He'll take care of the invoice. You come and I'll buy you a glass of wine here in Santa Barbara.
You give me. I need no reason to go hang out in the funk zone, Tom Burden.
All right. Well, thanks again, Carson. Take us home.
Thank you all. This was a phenomenal session, Larry. It's always good to see you, my friend. And thank you so much for the engaged audience. I've never seen the chat lit up like this. So thank you all. Keep coming with us. And until next time, happy social selling.